because you may imagine that there are going to be plenty of Republican constituents who would stand to benefit from student loan forgiveness. Maybe they'll look the other way. Maybe they'll say that they didn't want it in the first place and it was unfair or whatever. That type of thing happens. You never know with these Republican constituents. It's also a long time before they have to vote again. It's not going to be another 2 years before the 2024 election, so maybe there won't be any sort of consequences. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully this debt relief plan is going to be able to stand up, because $10,000 up to $20,000, that can really do a lot of good for a lot of people. But let me know what you think. Will this be allowed to stand up? And if it is struck down, will Republicans have to pay a political price for it? With Republicans taking over the House of Representatives, we expect that the current House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, is going to become the next Speaker of the House. In fact, he got the nomination of his party earlier this month by a wide margin, 188 to 31, getting many more times the votes that his challenger, Andy Biggs, got. But even so, McCarthy is going to have a tough time getting to that 218 vote threshold that you need to become Speaker when that vote takes place on the House floor at the start of next year. And that's because he has a slim majority to work with. Democrats are, of course, going to back Pelosi's successor, Hakeem Jeffries, but he's not going to have the 218 votes that he needs. Republicans are going to have to decide amongst themselves who the next Speaker of the House is. So McCarthy will need nearly all the votes from the Republican caucus to get him to that 218 threshold. He can only spare to have about 4 Republicans vote against him. That's the current projection based on how some of these elections are playing out and how big the majority is going to be for the Republicans. And that's going to be a tall task for McCarthy, getting those 31 Republicans who voted against him in the nomination process to vote for him to Speaker on the House floor. He can only afford to lose a few, and right now he's got to convince at least a few dozen of them. We already have a number of hard no's from Republican reps saying that they are not going to be backing McCarthy. Many of these hard no's come to us from the House Freedom Caucus. They include people like Matt Gaetz, Ralph Norman, Andy Biggs, Matt Rosendale, and Representative Bob Good. Interestingly enough, Marjorie Taylor Greene not on this list. You'd think that she's so fringe that, of course, she would back whoever is running against McCarthy, but maybe because she's being promised her committee assignments back, she is saying McCarthy is the person for the job right now. And even among these hard no's, are they actually hard no's? Like, they're probably just using this for leverage in a negotiation. The idea is that maybe they'll end up giving their votes to McCarthy in exchange for some concessions. Like, one thing that's being floated in particular is to institute a motion to vacate the chair, which would allow members of the House to kick out the current Speaker of the House mid-session. So if they got this in, potentially what would happen would be McCarthy gets elected Speaker, he gets enough votes, and then after a short period of time, the Freedom Caucus gets upset with him and decides to oust him as their leader. He's apparently not in negotiations yet with the Freedom Caucus, but his hand is eventually going to be forced. Like, he's going to have to come to the table and talk to these people if he wants their votes. McCarthy, we know, has wanted the speakership for so long. It's been his ultimate goal in his career, and he nearly got it in 2015 when John Boehner decided to step down as the leader of the House Republicans, step down as Speaker of the House. But then it became clear that McCarthy was not going to get the votes that he needed to become Speaker, so in came Paul Ryan, who was ushered in as someone who could represent like the Tea Party factions and the Freedom Caucus factions while still having appeal to like the broader Republican Party, because he was Mitt Romney's VP candidate in 2012, and so he was the one guy everyone could agree on. There's talk about that type of situation happening again to McCarthy, and instead someone like maybe Steve Scalise or Elise Stefanik or Jim Jordan coming in as the person that Republicans can all coalesce around. Now, another thing that may damage McCarthy is that he seems unwilling to impeach Joe Biden because he kind of gets the political ramifications that could happen if they decide to impeach Biden for some absurd reason, especially because Biden hasn't really done anything impeachable over these past couple of years, especially, relatively speaking, in terms of what you would impeach a president for. Some say that he should be impeached for pulling out of Afghanistan. Some on the right are saying that he should be impeached for inflation. Some say for Hunter Biden and the laptop from hell. It's clear the base just wants to impeach Biden because of revenge, and they figure, okay, well, Trump got impeached twice, so we got to impeach Biden in the same way. but that could end up backfiring hugely for them if it's seen as being done for a nonsense reason. And I kind of get the sense that Kevin McCarthy understands that. He wants to avoid impeachment altogether if he's able to. But if people are saying from inside the House that you got to do it, if the constituents in the Republican Party are saying you got to do it, maybe his hand will be forced and he'll have to do that. So Kevin McCarthy in a giant mess. I don't envy his position right now. It's not a shoo-in that he's going to become the next House Speaker, but he's certainly vying for it, and we'll see if it ends up happening. We're going to go to a break right now. We'll be back with much more of the David Pakman Show after these commercial messages.
Parents in the audience, if you're like me, you're looking for fun, new things to do with your kids, meaningful, enriching, but fun enough to keep them engaged. Every month, our sponsor, Mel Science, sends you a box with science experiments that combine hands-on physical components with virtual and augmented reality. Learning science doesn't need to be boring. It doesn't need to be difficult. Many kids are hands-on learners who absorb the most through activities like these. It's perfect for homeschooling, ages 5 through high school, 5 different subscriptions to choose from: chemistry, physics, STEM, math, or medicine. Mel Science sent me the Chemistry of Monsters box, where you grow a black monster from sugar and make a huge foam eruption in a flask. But you're actually learning about carbon dioxide and unstable carbonic acid.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
President Biden on Monday asked Congress to pass legislation immediately to avert a rail strike that he said would devastate the economy. The administration had been trying to help broker a deal with 12 unions representing 115,000 workers in the rail industry. But on Monday, Biden said he saw, quote, no path to resolve the dispute at the bargaining table. So he's asked Congress to overrule the 4 out of the 12 unions total that rejected that tentative contract agreement that was reached in a bargaining session with Labor Secretary Marty Walsh 2 months ago. A rail strike would disrupt the flow of goods, interrupt water and power supplies, and potentially damage the broader economy. Although the New Deal does increase wages significantly, the holdouts are demanding paid sick days and better working conditions. Without a deal, a strike could hit as early as December 9th. Well, as expected, other top Democrats fell into line. Behind Biden, Speaker Nancy Pelosi promised action in the House this week, quote, with no poison pills or changes to the negotiated terms, and a, quote, strongly bipartisan vote. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer didn't comment on Monday, but CNN reported that enough Republicans are expected to get behind the deal to pass it. So who's standing up for labor? Politico is reporting that all eyes are now on Senator Bernie Sanders, who's pushing for more sick leave in the deal. Sanders' office didn't comment, but give the damn rail workers paid sick time already. Just saying. The busy lame duck session kicks into gear today as the Senate votes on final passage of a bill to protect same-sex and interracial marriage. It is expected to pass with bipartisan support. The House would then need to approve the new legislation before sending it to President Biden to be signed into law. Now, this bill would not set a national requirement that all states must legalize same-sex marriage, but it would require each individual state to recognize other states' legal marriages. So, in the event that the Supreme Court might overturn the Obergefell decision that legalized same-sex marriage in 2015, a state could still pass a law to ban it, but that state would be required to recognize a same-sex marriage from another state. Oh, Arizona. Well, actually, not all of Arizona, just the MAGA-heavy Cochise County, Arizona. It's shining a spotlight on its idiocy. Despite zero evidence of wrongdoing, county officials there have refused to certify their election results, becoming the only county in the state to miss yesterday's deadline to approve the official tally. If they don't certify the election, those votes, which in Cochise County went heavily for Lake and Masters, would not be counted, thereby making the margins of victory for Katie Hobbs and Mark Kelly much larger. Like I said, idiocy. And speaking of, the former twice impeached failed fake billionaire and reality TV show host, Donald Trump, is now demanding that Kari Lake be made Arizona governor after she was defeated. He claimed Lake was the victim of, quote, another criminal voting operation. Oh, please. Now, although the Democrats lose control of the House in just over a month, the January 6th committee plans to work until the very last moment. Reports suggesting they'll hold one final public hearing before the panel's officially disbanded when the 118th Congress is sworn in on January 3rd. On Monday, Kellyanne Conway, the alternate facts lady, reportedly spoke with the committee for nearly 5 hours, telling reporters after the meeting, quote, I'm here voluntarily. Alrighty then. The world's largest active volcano, Hawaii's Mauna Loa, is erupting for the first time in almost 40 years. Lava is flowing down one side of the volcano, but there's no indication of any threat to nearby communities, and no evacuation orders have been issued. One longtime resident of Kona, Matthew Liano, spoke to CNN, talking about the red hues from the volcano that illuminated the sky Monday. He said, quote, the glow is like nothing I've seen living here in Kona for most of my life. Protests continue in China as tensions rise. China sent out police in force to prevent new protests against Beijing's zero COVID policy. Some of the demonstrations calling for President Xi Jinping to resign spread to cities across the country over the weekend. The White House on Monday called China's zero COVID strategy ineffective and said China's citizens have the right to peacefully protest. Do they, though? And finally, we're getting to the end of the year, and Merriam-Webster has announced its word of the year after searches for the term increased by a whopping 1,740% in recent months. You ready? The word of the year, gaslighting, the act or practice of grossly misleading someone, especially for one's own advantage. It made the top of the list because of its importance in the current age of misinformation that they say is full of, quote, fake news, conspiracy theories, Twitter trolls, and deep fakes. The runner-up words included oligarch, Omicron, codify, LBGTQIA, sentient, raid, and queen consort. And that's just a bit of what's news for now. I'm Nicole Sandler. If you appreciate these reports and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. My work is 100% listener supported, and I can't do it without your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com, and please click on that donate button.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution necessary.
Despite threats of violence and dozens of insults,
This is a war between good and evil, and you all represent evil. Such arrogance dripping from your mouth, just like the smile on your face right now. You guys represent evil?
the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors fulfilled their legal obligations today, certifying the 2020 election results.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion passes.
The county acknowledged problems at some voting locations, but said those unanticipated issues did not nullify the whole election. And today, election officials publicly addressed some of the criticisms, like the amount of time it took to count the votes.
What this graph is showing, going all the way back to 2016, on average, it's taken 13 days for Maricopa County to be able to tabulate all the ballots. Well, how long did it take us in the midterms of 2022? 13 days.
With today's certification, all but one of Arizona's 15 counties is on track to officially canvass the midterm results. The lone exception, Cochise County, where they delayed certification until at least Friday. Supervisors there face potential legal action to force them to turn in their official tallies.
And that legal action could come very soon. An attorney for the Secretary of State's office said in a separate court hearing they are looking to ask a Cochise County judge to compel the board there to canvass the results by December 1st. As of now, the state canvass remains scheduled for Monday. but that attorney said it could be pushed back as late as December 8th.
Arizona, you've gone insane. You've gone bat crap. You went full on Florida. Well, you know what? On behalf of the land of the dimpled Chad, pregnant Chad, hanging Chad, we thank you. We thank you for making us look somewhat normal. You're not even part of the former Confederacy. You can't even say that, that you inherited this kind of crazy. You actually imported your madness. You actually imported it. I mean, did you anybody see any of the clips of that hearing in Maricopa County yesterday? This was ahead of the certification process by where the election supervisor, the Board of Supervisors, certify the results after canvassing, after checking twice, finding out if you were naughty, if you were nice, and certifying the results of the election. And quite frankly, it looked like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. I mean, it looked insane. It was like, medication time. I mean, this was bizarre.
I came here today to get an up-close and personal look at the 7 traitors to the United States Constitution.
Okay, again,
for
please.
Sitting at that desk. You were set to receive a subpoena this morning at 9:30. What did you do? You called your meeting for 8 a.m. What are you hiding?
They're in public.
I will not repeat your election crimes.
Oh, my God.
I will just say, not certifying the machines constitutes a form of interference. And in case no one has enlightened you people, interference in an election in the United States of America, Mr. Gates, is a capital offense. It's considered treason, punishable by the death penalty.
Oh, good God.
So it's obvious why you, Hobbs, and Deep State Ducey are desperate to keep your cronies in office. Our country indeed has a pandemic of suspect, illegally elected officials and their self-appointed bureaucrats who think they do not have to do their jobs, yet stay on the government payroll. You are openly and arrogantly violating your oath of office. We want a new 2022 state election not run by the people at this desk or Katie Hobbs.
Okay, who?
75% of the citizens who went to vote stated that they were downright angry about the trajectory of the country, yet the foreign-owned mainstream media claims that we're evenly divided.
Traitors punishable by death. You, people, we want a new election not run by election professionals. We want... And I don't know if you caught the part in there where she said that they refused to certify the machines. The machines were certified in writing. Of course the machines were certified. They didn't use any uncertified, non-certified. You know what's certifiable? This crowd that was there. Certify your elections, or certify yourself, because there's something so completely insane about these performance artists that show up now at various, public hearings. It's so bizarre. Certify the damn election, or I'm going to certify you. Because you are certifiable. Yes, the machines were certified. I don't know. So now the Maricopa County, which, as we all know, is the largest county in Arizona, has certified the results of their election. But there's one county, a little, I guess it's the southeast part of, the state, somewhere in the desert somewhere, I guess. I don't know, Cochise County. Yes, named after that Cochise. I guess it's home to what? Bisbee? That teeming metropolis of Bisbee. But anyway, there's one county in Arizona that is currently refusing to certify. They're refusing to certify the election results. It's one rural county. Well, you knew it was rural by, just the reluctance or the poor losing technique. I mean, they're not just sore. You would think that they were they would be better at losing because, listen, if Florida is the second chance state, Arizona is the last chance state, and you would think that they would be better at losing because it's a familiar pattern in your freaking lives. But they won't certify. They want to have their own elections count. They would rather not have their votes counted than to count any votes for any Democrats in Cochise County, which, by the way, is lunacy. You know why? Because the majority of the votes in Cochise County went for Republican candidates like Carrie Lake and, Fincham there, the crazy one. And so if you don't certify and you proceed without the 47,000 votes from Cochise County, then guess what happens? Oh, yeah. Not only does the margin of the win by Katie Hobbs increase by, I'll say 40,000 votes, right? Because you won't be counting the Republicans in Cochise County because you don't want to count any Democrats in Cochise County. But the margin of victory for Katie Hobbs would not only get bigger, but you would have to forfeit a House seat. Yes, a House seat. I believe a guy named Juan Ciscomani, a Republican, won a House district in Cochise County. Okay? If you don't accept the votes from Cochise County, you now have Representative Kirsten Engel, Democrat of Arizona. Do you understand how stupid this is? How lunatic this is? How dumb this is? This is incredibly stupid. Also, you would get a new state supervisor, a Democratic one. God, there are sore losers and there are full-blown lunatic losers. And I must say, hey, Arizona, take it from Florida. You don't refuse to certify an election. You take it to the Supreme Court and then they hand it to the Republican. This is how, Florida did it. No, I mean, as a Floridian, I am overjoyed to no longer be the loopiest state in the union. I am thrilled. Because Florida, you know what I mean? It's just dimpled, hanging, pregnant, Chads. How about no more Florida man, Arizona man?
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
Happy holidays, everybody. You know what would make a freaking great gift? A stinking podcast. A stinking Randi Rhodes podcast. You can gift them now by just visiting us at RandiRhodes.com. Click on merch and buy a stinking podcast. Gift it. It's free of corporate information. There are no ads of any kind. It's pure podcast pleasure. Commercial free and on demand when you want it, where you want it, how you want it. So visit us at RandiRhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.
Breaking news. After years of failed Republican efforts to uncover any proof of widespread voter fraud by Democrats, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida has found not one but 20 ineligible people casting ballots. Like Donald Trump and a gaggle of other GOP governors, DeSantis has used the phony bugaboo of an illegal voting epidemic as a political ploy to keep the true believers believing. They spend millions of taxpayer dollars on partisan wild goose chases, and DeSantis even created a new police bureaucracy, the Office of Election Crimes, to snoop on voters. It was all just silly political nastiness, but then, Ron's dragnet scooped up 20 of the diabolical culprits. Vindication. Who were they? All are former convicts who had previously been stripped of their right to vote, but each one unwittingly cast ballots in 2020, wrongly believing that their rights had been restored after serving their time. Who cares what they thought, bellowed the bullish governor. He trashed them as election criminals, ignoring their constitutional right to be presumed innocent unless convicted by a jury. Well, gosh, why did all 20 think they could vote? Because each one had properly submitted voter registration applications that went to DeSantis' state agency responsible for determining eligibility. But oops, Ron's own administration boo-booed, erroneously authorizing all 20 to get official voter ID cards. In short, the governor himself had effectively told them they could vote. Then he had them arrested and publicly condemned for doing so. This is Jim Hightower saying, now running for president, DeSantis says God has chosen him to rule because he's a fighter. But hello, he fights people rather than for them. He's a bully, and there's nothing godly about that. Nothing presidential either.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day the National Labor Relations Board began hearings on an unfair labor practice brought by the International Mine, Mill, and Smelters. Mine Mill had been fighting the union-busting tactics at Eagle Pitcher Lead Company. The union had been organizing lead and zinc miners in the tri-state area of Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. During the Great Depression, they built the union by emphasizing safer working conditions, stressing the hazards of silicosis and tuberculosis. In their book, Deadly Dust, Silicosis and the Politics of Occupational Disease, Gerald Markowitz and David Rosmer note that one of Mine Mill's demands included the elimination of the company clinic. They argued it was used to target and fire diseased workers rather than provide a safe work environment. Mine Mill also organized in other area industries to counteract the near total power of mine owners in the region. When the union called a strike at area mines in May 1935, the area's largest producer, Eagle Pitcher Lead, moved quickly to force a lockout and establish a company union. During the hearings, the union was limited in its ability to raise health and safety issues. They did win reinstatement and back pay for workers fired during the strike, but the case brought national attention to silicosis in the tri-state area. In a letter to Francis Perkins the following year, the head of the Cherokee County Central Labor Body hoped to secure legislation.
Don't give up, don't give up what's true.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, check out this dude.
I'm going to read from Proverbs.
Oh, no, you're not.
28:1 says, "The wicked flee when no one is chasing them, but the godly are bold and lions." You see any bold people who are lions here? They're committed to this thing, so am I. When there is moral rot within a nation, its government topples easily. But with honest and sensible leaders, there is stability. Mm-hmm. Would you take a minute and just reflect on all the parents that have lost their kids in wars, who have fought for your right to vote?
What?
A vote. Not boxes and pallets of ballots. Ballots aren't votes.
They're not?
You're trampling on their sacrifice of the parents that lost their children.
Kool-Aid's over there. Have a sip or two. Wow.
Randy, he's got important things to say, and if he says it like this, he doesn't sound at all crazy.
I'm going to quote from Proverbs and then downshift into World War II veterans. What? What are you? What is your major malfunction there, dude? I don't understand it. I'm no expert here, but this is Herschel Walker territory. This is Herschel Walker crazy. Actually, this is like Mike Lindell crazy. This is Mike Lindell lunacy because, you know, Mike Lindell believes that God has anointed him to run for Republican National Committee chairperson. Swear to God. This whole hearing turned into a war between good and evil.
Let me frame this right. We're not framing this properly. This is a war between good and evil.
And
you all represent evil, including you. I want to look in your eyes, especially you. I see the way that you look at people when they come up here and speak truth. Such arrogance dripping from your mouth, just like the smile on your face right now. You guys represent evil, good versus evil. All you God-fearing men and women out here need to understand that and get up every day and start donning your body armor before you step on this battlefield. We cannot continue to fight this war with these earthly weapons and continue to talk on deaf ears. We must get God in the middle of this thing.
What?
We must start off our days with our helmet of salvation, our sword of the Spirit, shield of faith, breastplate of righteousness, belt of truth, and our feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. And understand that if you do not start your day off like that, you are stepping on this battlefield ill-prepared, and we will keep getting waxed by these evil people in charge.
It's a war between good and evil. No, it's not. It's counting ballots is what it is. It's counting votes, and you lost. This is not a war. America's not a battlefield. Yet again, we have to reiterate that America is not a battlefield and should not be thought of as a battlefield. This is not a war between good and evil. This is math. Yes, this is math. This is just one of those sciencey things where 2 is more than 1, 3 is more than 2, and 5 is less than 10. See, that's math. You see what I mean? That's math. It's not complex. It's not complicated, Lawnmower Man. This is simple, basic counting. Holy crap. It's a war between good and evil, and you are evil.
I came here today
because it's evil.
What we saw on Election Day was outrageous, and to say that it was anything but that is either you think we're stupid or you're just that arrogant. If you certify today, the only thing you'll be certifying is your corruption.
The way that you guys can just sit there, it's disgusting. Watching you pledge allegiance to my flag was disgusting, the way that you sold us out. This is vote trafficking at its finest. I've seen the criminal element. You are vote traffickers. You are a vote trafficker. Flagrant. Criminal. Curse upon you. A curse upon all of you. You smug people.
A pox on... Oh, we've already been through pox. So a curse, I guess. Jerry Garcia, everybody. Jerry Garcia came back from the dead and is now on the side of evil, is now on the side of anti-math, is now on the side of don't count the votes, now on the side of I'd rather not count the votes, I'd rather not certify an election if it means I lost. If it means I lost. And that other dude is standing there with a Real America's Voice hat on trying to, say, I represent truth and fact. Real America's Voice. He's got a freaking hat on his head proclaiming that is where he gets his freaking news. Holy crap. It's the dude, everybody. It's the dude. I mean, all that's missing is like a white Russian. That's what he needs right there. It's just this assemblage of weirdos and God-fearing, Bible-thumping, let's conflate politics and math with religion and, Proverbs. Really? And don't forget the children. Holy crap, man. So the Arizona director of All Voting is Local said this certification drama is part of a, quote, infrastructure of election denial that's been building since the 2020 election in Arizona. Well, then, there's some infrastructure Donald Trump actually built. The infrastructure of election denial. That's all he ever built, but that is his. Terrible losers, which is, way too bad because looking at you people there, looking at you, you look like complete losers. Oh my God, and they don't want to certify a Republican county's votes because they don't like it. I don't know what they don't like. It's a Republican county. It elected a Republican House of Representatives member. It elected a state superintendent. A Republican one. I don't know what is wrong with them. At first I said, and that's what I called the homework today. Maybe it's something in the water. But then I realized, no, we're talking about the desert. Maybe there's no water. Maybe they're all water deprived. Maybe there's absolute dehydration of the brain. I don't know what's going on out there. But like I said, maybe in Florida we get a snoot full of bath salts and wrestle alligators and, eat people's faces. But at least we certify our elections. Jeez. Jane in Arizona.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Jane.
It's getting so embarrassing to be living here.
Hey, I live here. I mean,
I know. I feel like, I've got a little in common with you. But I wanted to say that this Cochise County thing, Tom Horn is a Republican. He was our superintendent of schools, public schools. He lost the last election. He ran again, and he will win if they certify those votes.
Right.
Otherwise Kathy Hoffman, the Democrat's going to say, and of course, I would really like her to. She really got us through the pandemic, fighting with Ducey, but unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. It makes no sense. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, you know, like,
I know.
Holy, what's going on?
I know.
Oh, my. Wow, Jane, sorry.
If you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Oh, my God. Oh, Arizona. Oh, Arizona. Now, Donald Trump has truthed. How ridiculous is that? Yes, and he has called for Kari Lake to be installed as governor of Arizona. Installed.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Happy holidays. By the way, this is the opening of the holiday season. And as such, it's time to reintroduce everyone to Santa Buddha.
Yay! Oh, no. Not Santa Buddha again. Just when Glenn Kirshner has us all calmed down about this special counsel, you write a piece entitled Merrick Garland is Making a Mistake by Appointing a Special Counsel. I have to say, Charlie, first of all, I'm a Libra, but literally every legal expert I listen to, I'm like, that's a good point. No, wait, that's a good point. I kind of see both sides of this, but tell us your take.
Well, legally, I think it's probably a good idea. I mean, I take every point Glenn made from a legal standpoint.
Okay.
Right.
I think from a political standpoint, it's a mistake. I think from a political standpoint, it's one more layer of insulation between those who are being investigated and the investigators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm perfectly willing to be proven wrong in that.
Yeah, Rude Pundit's the same thing. He said, I hope I'm proven wrong. I get what you mean. You said a special counsel means another layer of bureaucracy, which implies further delays and opportunities for mischief and deceit. The circumstances are simply not that extraordinary here. The guy is a private citizen suspected of a crime. That's all he is, no more or less. There's nothing magical about declaring yourself a candidate for president. You're not then blessed with the magic oil of immunity. That's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. If it were, Harvey Weinstein would have filed for the New Hampshire primary in 2016. But you just said, blah, blah, blah. You said he is the chief law enforcement official of the United States. Enforce the damn law and do it yourself, which goes to everybody's point, right, Charlie, that it's Merrick Garland's decision in the end anyway. Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
That's the thing that people keep pushing back on. They don't want to go into a whole nother storm of hate.
I actually saw people trying to leave and people leaving early even before he was done. He's still speaking now.
We are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We call it the China virus. Some people call it other things.
He started with the China virus. He started with, poking names at DeSantis. We've heard that, and people are tired of it.
Angela. Remember Angela? Do you remember Angela? Nobody's remembering her now.
I'm sure you're very supportive of your father-in-law, but those of us on the outside looking at it, it didn't seem that he got the old magic. You know what I mean?
We built the wall. We completed the wall. In the caravans, I love the name. I came up with it. I love the name. The caravans. A word that I refuse to say. Nuclear. I say, why didn't you raid Bush's place? Why didn't you raid Clinton?
They actually started preventing people from leaving.
I'm not going to use the term fake news media.
The New York Post said at the bottom of the page, Florida man makes announcement.
I had to fold it over so you could see it. It says, Florida man makes announcement. And then, perhaps worst of all, see page 26.
Ivanka Trump yesterday said she's bowing out of politics just after her father's announcement.
Right. Look at how time flies. Look how fast it's all going.
Whether you're listening to Leslie Marshall each Tuesday through Friday or Brad Bannon each Monday, you can hear them from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern on the Progressive Voices Network. Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
Sean O'Brien. Mr. O'Brien is now General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. What do you, now that you're President, General President?
Call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Oh, everybody, can you believe it? Can you believe it? It's the year end. It's the year end, and it's time for your year-end giving and for our year-end winter pledge drive. Free Speech TV is viewer-powered. It is powered by you and your love, your dollars. And the frontline funders, those sneaky little bastards, have struck again, and they are willing to put their money where my mouth is yet again today. So if you donate $100 today, it will become $200 today. If you it's math. Sorry, Arizona, it's math. If you donate $100, it becomes $200. See, times two, match, dollar for dollar. That's how it goes. Don't want to freak out Arizona, but anything that you give today will be matched up to $50,000, and that is an amazing investment in your independent media, in your channel. That is what we need in order to stay independent. That is what we need to be free from corporate influence. That is what we need to be free of political money and political dollars. And so, if you want to see those dollars grow, today's a wonderful day to dial 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Visit us online, of course, at freespeech.org. Freespeech.org, or use your phone and text FSTV, Free Speech TV, to 44321, and we'll send you a secure link so that you can donate to Free Speech today and watch our channel grow. We really appreciate it. It's very easy for you. It's just time to get back to programming now. So thank you. Greg in South Carolina.
Hello, Randy. How you doing?
Hi.
I apologize. I wanted to go back a few Looney Tune clips earlier.
Oh, okay.
You're rolling them out pretty fast today.
Yeah.
The one lady said something that always drives me crazy when they use that statistic that says a certain percentage of Americans are not happy with the direction the country is going.
Right.
And I always want to point out that is the most meaningless, the most useless statistic that people use, and they still use it. And here's my example. I voted for President Biden. I voted for Democrats up and down the ticket in this last election. But if somebody asks me if I am happy about the direction this country's going in, I'm going to say, hell no.
Right. So maybe this is the thing. They ask people, are you happy with the direction? And people say no, but that doesn't mean that they're telling you why. Okay, some people don't like the direction of the country because some people don't like the direction the country is going in because there's Republican obstruction of everything we give a damn about.
Yeah,
right.
There's Republican out of the woodwork.
Yes, maybe it's a part of the hatred that's enveloping certain communities. Right. Maybe it's part of the gun violence. But they don't ask you why are you unhappy with the direction of the country and what's your solution for it. Because if they did, I'm sure that a good chunk of those 70% would say we need more Democrats because the Republicans obstruct everything, and we can't. Right, we have solutions to our problems, and they're not interested, and so we hate the direction that we're going in. Do you know what I mean? So it's not a useless statistic. It's just not a fleshed out explanation of what to do about the wrong direction number.
Yeah, what percentage of that 72% hate it because of the fascism creeping in? What percentage hate it because
the gun violence is
Joe Biden's not real or something?
I mean, right. So people could be very unhappy with the direction America's going in because people see more and more guns on the street, more and more guns in school, more and more violence at synagogues, more and more violence at shopping malls, more and more violence that could be one of their reasons. So it's not useless. It's just telling you unhappiness. It's measuring that, but it's not measuring why.
Exactly.
So
that's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Well, good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg. Jamie in Oregon.
Hi, it's Jaime.
Oh, Jaime. Hi, Jaime. That was my grandpa's name.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you, do you think that the COVID restrictions in China, do you think this could be the end for President Xi?
No. What's really weird about it? So this is why I didn't even talk about it yesterday, because they've been over since this weekend, but you would not know it watching TV. You know, this is the corporate media. Those protests were weekend protests. They are unusual in China, okay, but they were over yesterday. There's no more protests. There were about a dozen people in a remote village, and that was it. Okay, that was it. So now, he's got a surveillance state over there. I don't know if you realize that he's surveilling us too with this TikTok crap. People who need to get their kids off TikTok, not just because it's annoying and they scroll and scroll and scroll, and the screen time is insane, but because they're tracking you, and they are a technological autocracy. I mean, they're becoming tyrants. A technological tyranny is being done on the United States for everybody that's signed up to TikTok. However, that is a surveillance state, meaning that they have thousands, if not millions, of cameras all over China. And every single person can be identified by these smart cameras. And now they're hunting down the people that participated in the protests over the weekend, and they're going to make them pay. They're either going to tell them that they can't live in Beijing, which is, a privilege because it's the financial capital of China, or they're going to tell them that they can't work, or they're going to tell them they need to leave their apartment and they need to go, live in the hinterlands or something. I mean, they're going to go after every last one of these protesters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, you should be. It's disgusting. But that's what communism is. And it's the Communist Party running that place. And this is what they do to, control people, is they monitor them 24/7, all day, every day. And, this is the thing with their, zero COVID policy. Everybody's got to get tested every day. Anybody that, you were near has to get tested. If you tested positive, then they put you in like a COVID concentration. It's like everything Americans are afraid of is happening over there. And yet they're allowing their kids to be on TikTok. Do you know? It's such a disconnect.
Right. Hey, Randy, could we see you with your wig off for a second?
It's my hair. Sorry, but it's my hair. Asshole.
Oh, he went a long way for a very lame troll.
No, it's really my hair. Do you think that if it was a wig, I would pick this one? Ha! Who's the idiot now, idiot? All right, David in North Miami.
Randy, Your Majesty.
Yes, my supplicant.
Hi. I wish we had a quick way to explain to these hyper-religious buffoons. They want to see the world as a chessboard between good and evil. Yeah, that's what the Persian religion did. Before Christianity and late Judaism, that's why in Old Testament, yeah, there's a list of sins, but there's no big good versus evil.
Listen, they'll
never know that.
No, they will never know that. They have no idea what evil is. They have no idea what goodness is. People that would deny other people's votes being counted because they don't like the result are not good people. They are not generous people. They are not kind people. They are not smart people. They are literally people who are willing to cut their noses off to spite their freaking face.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
Donald Trump is back. Angry, vengeful, ready to take back the White House and wreck America again. And who's going to stop him? These weaklings and losers, business leaders, they'll bend the knee and write the checks. The press? Too many are just here for the show, ready to both sides America to death. The law? He'll ignore it, like he's always done. No, the only people who will stop Trump are Americans ready to put country over party, ready to put differences aside to save this country, ready to work, ready to fight, ready to stand up when he knocks America down. Because it's not about left and right. It's not about rich and poor, black or white. Like it's always been, the choice is simple. It's America or Trump.
Look, no person is above the law in this country.
Nothing stops us.
Even a former
I don't know how to, maybe I'll say that again. No person is above the law in this country. I can't say it any more clearly than that.
Finished with our meetings here at the White House this afternoon. We had a great planning session for our January 6th objection. We aren't going to let this election be stolen.
Above the law and reelected.
On January 6th, did you speak with him before, during, or after the Capitol was attacked?
I'd have to go.
Above the law and reelected.
President Trump he's a fighter. He, like so many of us, believe that this election was stolen, and he wants to fight through it. And we'll wait and see what happens on January 6th.
Above the law and reelected.
Certification of those ballots is covered up by the machine.
Above the law and reelected.
My conversations with the president are my conversations with the president.
Presumptive Speaker of the House.
A great woman named Ginny Thomas. She said that she still believes the 2020 election was stolen. She didn't wilt under pressure.
Above the law.
Investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government.
Above the law.
We will not go quietly into the night.
Above the law.
I waved to him, gave him the thumbs up, pumped my fist to him.
Above the law.
On January 6th, I was in charge of operations, plans, training, and strategy.
Above the law.
Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass.
Above the law.
Is there any person here that actually thinks that Joe Biden won this election?
Above the law.
We're coming for you, and we're going to have a good time doing it.
Above the law.
I am senior advisor to President Donald J. Trump.
Above the law. Received $2 billion from the Saudis.
Jared Kushner secured a $2 billion investment from a fund led by the Saudi Crown Prince.
Now more than ever, America needs 4 more years of a warrior in the White House.
Above the law.
Every American understands what today's Democrat Party stands for with respect to babies and with respect to the murder of babies.
New Democratic hero.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
2024 presidential candidate.
No person is above the law in this country. I can't say it any more clearly than that.
Glad to have the MAGA-packed Supreme Court? Proud that they lied under oath to get the job? If so, thank a MAGA Republican. If you enjoy seeing our rights disappear one by one, thank a MAGA Republican today. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code WACK, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code WACK, how do the results of the midterm elections affect the prospect for state-based single-payer healthcare systems? Will state governments continue to subsidize the private insurance system and defend the status quo as we lose money and lives? To find out, we recently spoke to Michael Leidy, president of Healthy California Now.
Well, the question is, I think, for elected officials at all levels is, are they going to continue to subsidize?
Don't give up. Don't give up. What's true?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
It
to
is.
speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Here's the sorest of the sore losers.
I want you to know that I am firmly in this fight with you. Where Arizonans were expected to wait in line 2, 3, 4, even 5 hours simply to exercise their sacred right to vote. Arizona, America, if we do not stand up and speak up right now about the most dishonest elections in the history of Arizona, I truly fear for our future. And I'm working with a team of patriotic, talented lawyers on a legal case to challenge the botched elections. My team and I realize how important this case is and what is at stake. We will file this case in accordance with Arizona state law. And you'll want to stay tuned for this one. Trust me.
Huh.
We, the people, will not forget. God will not forget.
God.
And I will not quit.
Yes, because God doesn't have a whole lot to do. God is very busy watching Kari Lake lose. God is very busy inserting himself into the Arizona governor's election, because that's what God does. I mean, this is insane. This is real backcrap stuff over here. Now, for his part, like I said, Donald Trump has called for Kari Lake to be installed as governor of Arizona. Is that what you do when you don't get elected? You install? Because installation of government sounds awfully Chi-com to me. Sounds awfully chi. Sounds awfully, red. It doesn't sound anything to do with America. I'm no expert but I think that when leaders are installed, generally they're installed at the point of a gun. Generally they're installed at the end of a barrel of a gun. People certify elections. Guns are what they use to installations of governments. This is really, I mean, she has got to be the source of sore losers. And, if you want to go after a woman at all, about the way, doesn't it bother you that she smears Vaseline all over the lens? Because she won't show you who she really is. I don't know. But who should conduct the installation of Kari Lake, Donald? Who should? Your paramilitary thugs, they're all in jail now. They're all, on trial now. And the ones that are left over, they're in closing arguments right now, or the jury's got the case right now. So who are you going to even have left to intimidate the people at the ballot box? Who are you going to even have left? Install her. This is just so sick. This is so un-American. This is so unreal. This is so other country-ish. I won't say otherworldly, because I think they got it sorted out in other worlds, right? This is, I swear to God, I cannot believe. And he puts it in writing, and he posts it, in the anal probe of the internet. He truths it. Him and Elon, they're having it out. Did you see Elon Musk last night? He tweeted his bed table. He tweeted his his nightstand. And you know what was on his nightstand? It's like a Buddhist symbol and a gun. Because, Buddha is pro ammo. It was a bunch of like Coke Zero cans with, like rings, no coasters. He doesn't use coasters. A billionaire who has, rings on his nightstand with a gun, a musket also. He had a handgun, and then he had a musket in a box with some, I don't know, representation of the American Revolution on there, with an antique musket, and then a real, a modern gun next to a Buddhist symbol of, prayer. What the F is going on with these people? Now, it was interesting because I was talking to Jessica. She thought that Elon Musk was a self-made guy, and she couldn't understand why he was unraveling so fast if he knows how to put himself together and make something out of himself. And I had to explain to her, he's not a self-made dude. He inherited his money from his father, who owned an African emerald mine. He's another heir. He's another inheritor. He's another trust fund baby. He's not somebody that... And SpaceX is run by engineers, and so is Tesla. He just invested the most money in it, and so it became his. But this is some sick, weirdo crap that, people like to follow. This is some really strange garbage. And he's turned Twitter into a dumpster fire. And now he thinks he also tweeted something about going to war with Apple. He wants to go to war with Apple. Well, have at it. Have at it. Let the two of them go at each other. He's upset because Apple's App Store has it has terms, it has sort of rules of the road, let's say. So you can't have an app in the App Store if your app is about porn. I don't know why, but you can't, okay? And you can't have your app in the App Store if it's not on the up and up. And they have these app like a board that reviews your apps and sees whether or not your app is something that they want in their store. And because they're a private company, they can pick and choose who they want in their store, which really sucks because there is no other platform to get an application to your iPhone. See, Google Play is for Android, but the Apple Store is for your iPhone. And if you don't go through Apple, you can't get the app installed on an iPhone and serviced, right? So now the two of them are saying they're going to go to war with each other. Well, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. But these are the people that Americans are like, following. These are the people that they care about. These are the people that they want to be like. These are the people that they worship. These are the people that they, think have got it all together. A guy whose nightstand has a Buddhist symbol next to it, two guns. They're two guns and a bunch of empty Coke Zero cans. Holy crapola, man. It's so sick. It's so disgusting. I've never in my life seen anything, well, not true. Mike Lindell takes the cake. Mike Lindell, he was on one of these platforms yesterday talking to one of these hosts on one of these platforms. It was Steve Bannon, and Steve Bannon was asking Mike Lindell if, this is crazy, because this is who they worship, right? If Donald Trump told you, Mike Lindell, that he thought it was that you were a wonderful guy, that you were really bright, you were really smart, and buttered your ass, right? Buttered your ass like it was, a breakfast roll, but told you not to run for a Republican National Committee chair, would you take his advice? And he's like, no, because God told me to do it.
If President Trump was to call you up today after seeing this and say, hey, Mike, I saw it, I know you, I love you, you're fantastic, you're a great patriot, but I think you ought to sit this one out. For the good of the RNC and for good of my candidacy in 2024. What would you say, sir?
I would say, I'm sorry, sir, but my decision's already been made, and I prayed about it, and this is God's will, and this is what I'm doing. And I think I've been straightforward with everyone in this country and the world. When I do my due diligence and when I go all in, I'm all in.
God told him to run to be the Republican National Committee chairman and raise a boatload of money for racists and anti-Semites. God told him to do that, God did. Because this is what God's very busy doing. This is what God does all day. He inserts himself into Kari Lake's election in Arizona, and he tells Mike Lindell, he whispers in Mike Lindell's ear that he needs to run and raise a boatload of money for the Republican National Committee. Minnesota?
Hello.
Hello.
That idiot who called in trying to insult you by saying, gee, could you take off your wig? He really screwed up because basically he was flattering you because he thinks your hair is so beautiful, it couldn't possibly be real. Fail. And you know what? Elon Musk is just another Don Jr., another inherited wealth, doesn't know what to do with it.
Not even Don Jr., Don himself, the Don, inherited from Fred, okay? None of them are self-made. They all inherited money, and Jared too.
Yes, and I think he's having a manic episode. I think he's melting down.
Well, I certainly hope so because, what is going on is pretty fast. People who want to be president, people who think that they've got a shot at getting the nomination at this early stage of the game are now calling him out for hosting, that unbelievably, talented dude, Nick Fuentes, and his little colleague there, Kanye West, or Ye, right? And saying that it was disgusting that he hosted, anti-Semites and racists and white supremacists. So he's getting dumped by his own party. He's getting dumped by his own former Secretary of State. Mike Pompeo trashed him. Do you know what I'm saying? And you got all these people turning on him now because he committed the ultimate sin. You know what that is in their world? Yes, exactly. Being a loser. That is the sin. There is no good and evil in their world. They talk about it, but it's bull crap. There's only winning and losing. And I guess they got so tired of Donald Trump's version of winning that, they're done with him. They're done. He's a 3-time loser, and they're moving on. So they're trashing him. Even Kevin McCarthy today trashed him.
Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken, and people are dying.
Welcome to Code Whack, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code Whack. What do the results of the midterm elections mean for healthcare reform at the national level? Could they have an effect on the increasing corporatization of healthcare? To find out, we asked Michael Leidy, president of Healthy California Now.
I think the federal level is tough to gauge. I think we can say that the really big threats to Medicare and Social Security are off the table because the Republicans don't have both houses. So their negotiating positions to leverage the Biden administration is weakened. They were definitely going to go after Medicare, maybe even raising the eligibility age. Can you imagine being subject to private insurance until you're age 70 instead of 65? That was being discussed by the Republicans. So I think there is going to be a need politically to address healthcare inflation. Now, what that usually means when you're not doing single payer is restricting access to the services, and so trying to make changes on the delivery side or schemes like ACO REACH or privatized things like Medicare Advantage. We know in California, Code Whack has covered it, that Medicare for All, single payer, can save people, individuals, working families, seniors even, $5,000 to $9,000 a year. We know that the state of California can save $150 billion, $158 billion a year by 2030.
A full Code Whack story on ProgressiveVoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code Whack wherever you find your podcast. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Today, we established the first ever dedicated fund for loss and damage.
While we were out, rich nations finally agreed to pay climate damages to poor nations. A quarter of Americans are at risk of winter power blackouts. Plus,
everybody that uses tap water in Houston is being told to boil your water.
Entire city of Houston placed under boil water notice after power failure.
All of that hot water and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Yusuf Shah, the 11-year-old British kid with an IQ higher than Einstein, has to explain the fascination with Rubik's Cubes. Look, I can solve it in 3 seconds. Nobody cares, genius. Go to your room and solve global warming.
Yes, please do. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, we step away for a few days, and look what happens. A whole bunch of things all at once that we need you to cover on today's Green News Report.
Indeed. While we were out, the big UN climate summit in Egypt, COP27, reached a breakthrough agreement after 30 years of deadlock. Rich countries finally agreed to create a fund to compensate developing countries for loss and damage caused by man-made global warming, to recover from disasters and adapt to future impacts. It matters because developed nations got rich using fossil fuels, leaving poor countries who haven't benefited from those greenhouse gas emissions to grapple with costly disasters like worsening storms, droughts, and heat waves, and rising sea levels. The United States, the world's largest historical emitter, dropped its decades-long opposition after the new agreement ensured that rich nations won't be held legally liable for payments.
Well, good for us, I guess.
COP27 Executive Secretary Simon Style credited pressure by climate activists and non-governmental groups for the breakthrough.
Without the voices of individuals, whether they're activists, researchers, scientists, youth, or indigenous peoples, we would not have gotten this far. Your voices have a direct impact on how we find our way forward at the multilateral level.
So raising hell works, if you can do it for 30 years.
Yes. But thorny questions were postponed to next year, like the structure of the fund, where the money should go, how to hold countries accountable, and which countries should contribute, like, say, China, which is both a wealthy developing country and a top emitter. It was a mixed bag at COP27 after major oil producers thwarted attempts to strengthen emissions targets and blocked a provision calling for the phase-out of all fossil fuels. Here in the U.S., the Republican takeover of the House of Representatives in the 2022 election is likely to curtail U.S. climate action. GOP leaders have announced they're dismantling the House Climate Crisis Committee and have vowed to block the U.S. commitment to contribute to the Loss and Damage Fund and to chip away at President Biden's landmark climate law, the Inflation Reduction Act.
Sure, why not? There's nothing wrong with the climate. Everything is fine.
In Houston, officials on Monday issued a boil water notice for 2.3 million residents and closed schools on Monday and Tuesday after a power outage at one of the city's water purification plants caused a drop in water pressure. The cause of the power failure is as yet unexplained as we go to air, but the consequences rippled across the city for millions of residents and businesses. Large parts of the U.S. are at major risk of power outages this winter, according to North America's grid reliability watchdog. In their sobering assessment, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation warned that Texas, the Midwest, and New England are at high risk of outages in an extreme winter storm scenario that could curtail fossil fuel supply deliveries and knock unprepared power plants offline. The Biden administration just released another tranche of $13 billion in funds from the bipartisan infrastructure law to modernize the U.S. power grid for future resilience. Some good news while we were out. The world's largest solar farm began delivering power in India. The world's largest offshore wind farm went online off the coast of Norway. And the largest battery storage system in Europe went online. All are set to be superseded by bigger clean energy facilities already in the development pipeline in coming years.
Nice.
And finally, Buffalo, New York is just digging out from a historic multi-day blizzard that was juiced by global warming. Some areas received 7 feet of snow. But despite the snow, Buffalo is promoting itself as a climate refuge. The city has launched a marketing campaign to attract new residents with data from online real estate site Trulia that highlights Buffalo's mild summers, climate-resilient infrastructure, and status as one of the top 5 safest U.S. cities against climate impacts.
Until then, 6 feet of snow. Keep digging. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget you can download our reports anytime via Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple, Google, or Amazon Podcasts. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
President Trump was wrong to give a white nationalist, an anti-Semite, and a Holocaust denier a seat at the table. And I think he should apologize for it, and he should denounce those individuals and their hateful rhetoric without qualification. With that being said, as I point out in the book as well, I don't believe Donald Trump is an anti-Semite. I don't believe he's a racist or a bigot.
Yeah,
I would not have been his vice president if he was.
Yeah, right.
And people often forget the president's daughter converted to Judaism.
Yep.
His son-in-law is a devout Jew. His grandchildren are Jewish. And so the broad brush of attack that media leveled at him, but I think the president demonstrated profoundly poor judgment in giving those individuals a seat at the table. And as I said, I think he should apologize for it. He should denounce them without qualification.
Wow, Pence, almost butch there, almost like a real man, almost like a real boy. Wow, very tough, very tough. Yeah, no, he's literally going to vouch for Donald Trump's character. That sounded so much like, but one of my best friends is black, that I almost vomited on the TV when he said that. This is so amazing, though, that his own vice president is coming out strong against him. And the entire media is like, oh, my God, listen to Mike Pence. He told Trump off. He told Trump to go take a hike. You know, there's no coming back from that. Do you know how many anti-Semitic, right-wing Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, Charlottesville, 3%. You know how many, Klan members, David Duke, etc., Storm, the Stormfront people, Angler, all these white supremacists. Donald Trump has never, ever once, not ever, denounced any of them. The closest Donald Trump ever gets to denouncing is to say, I never met him, or I don't know him. I didn't know him. But then, he came anyway, so I said to Kanye, I was trying to be nice. I said, okay, you could bring your friends, whatever. Oh, and I was very impressed with him. No, Donald Trump has never, ever once denounced any group of white supremacists that are known in the United States to the Anti-Defamation League, that are known to the ACLU, that are known to the FBI, that are known to, people that track hate groups in this country. Not ever once. So where in the hell is Mike Pence coming off saying, I want to vouch for his character? Donald Trump has character? I want to vouch, because if he didn't have character, if he was an anti-Semite, I would never have been his vice president. Oh, yeah, right. Of course not. No, he's running for president now, and he's trying to have a break point between him and Donald Trump, a point that he says he will not go past, right? He will allow his family to be put in danger. He will allow his family to be placed in harm's way. He will allow his family to be in the same, exact building when people are screaming, hang Mike Pence. He will do that. But he will not, abide by Donald Trump's meeting with Kanye and Fuentes. That is such horse crap, I can't even tell you. By the way, if you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, just in case, he's disgusting.
We have one more election where white people can make the decision. The white people got to make the right decision, and then Trump's got to get in there and never leave. That, to me, at this point, is a pathway. It's time to shut up, elect Trump one more time, and then stop having elections. We have got to talk about the fundamentals of our worldview and what it would look like to build a society based on our distinct worldview. It looks like a society where women don't have the right to vote. And it looks like a society where boys and girls get married as teenagers and start having kids, and they don't use birth control, and they don't use contraceptives, and they have big families and a high birth rate. And it looks like women wearing veils at church. And it looks like women not being in the workforce. Banning gay marriage is back on the menu. Banning sodomy is back on the menu. Banning contraceptives is back on the menu. And basically, we're having something like Taliban rule in America, in a good way. We're having something like a Catholic Taliban rule in America.
Yeah, it's this creepy, crazy women of praise kind of Catholic ideology that spawns white supremacists like Nick Fuentes, who really does believe that women are to be owned, that, we need a white society where only white people are important or only white people are special. Meanwhile, every time I see a group of just nothing but white people, I don't see successful communities. I see some really strange crap. I see people trying to mind everybody else's business. I see people that want to ban contraception. I see people who are thinking that God gets involved in Kari Lake's election. I see people who think that God picked Donald Trump to be the president of the United States. I see people who want Jews to go back to Israel so the rapture can come. I mean, it never looks pleasant. It never does. But that's who Nick Fuentes is. He believes in a dictatorship, okay? I don't know why he thinks that he will be part of it. I don't know why these people think that they're going to get most favored nation status in a dictatorship. I'm not really sure why. But, Kanye West is a white supremacist now. He's an anti-Semitic white supremacist. And somebody needs to tell him that he doesn't come out on top in this world, okay?
You got to recognize the fact that this is a godless country. I hate it. It's immoral, it's wrong, it's heinous, it's evil. But this is an evil country.
Oh.
And this country will surprise you with how evil it is. And that's why you got to get this out of your head that there is some silent majority cavalry that's going to come out of the woods and save us at the last minute. It's not. When we meet the left on the battlefield and they outnumber us 5-1, that's it. But the point is, when you look at these things like abortion, it's popular. People like abortion. Hate it, but it's true. And you can thank the Jewish media for that. Abortion's popular. Sodomy's popular. Being gay is popular. Being a feminist is popular. Sex out of wedlock is popular. Contraceptives it's all popular. That's all. That's not to say it's good. That's not to say I like that. Popular means the people support it, which they do. And it sucks, and it is what it is, but that's why we need dictatorship. That's unironically why we need to get rid of all that. We need to take control of the media or take control of the government and force the people to believe what we believe, or force them to play by our rules and reshape the society.
So this is their game. This is the game they play, where America is a battlefield. It's always a battlefield because it sounds manly. But then he sits there and he says, this is a 24-year-old child, okay? He's 24 years old, and he's against sex out of wedlock, okay? He's obsessed with sodomy. He's obsessed with, what people put in their rear ends. He's obsessed with altar boys and being an altar boy and being an altered boy. I don't know. They're obsessed. They're obsessed with your sexual, behavior. Don't ask me why. I have no earthly idea why this is important to them, but this is what they talk about all day, every day. But that's who he is. And he's a disgusting, disgraceful human being who does this for probably craps and giggles and, of course, for money. It's all about money. It's all about profit. It's all about being, somebody who could generate money for yourself by telling people you hate America, it's an evil country, it's a bad place, and that it's a bad place, and so you have to treat it like it's a battlefield and go out and slay everybody that disagrees with you who lives here. Just kill them.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
Happy holidays, everybody. You know what would make a freaking great gift? A stinking podcast. A stinking Randi Rhodes podcast. You can gift them now by just visiting us at RandiRhodes.com. Click on merch and buy a stinking podcast. Gift it. It's free of corporate information. There are no ads of any kind. It's pure podcast pleasure. Commercial free and on demand when you want it, where you want it, how you want it. So visit us at RandiRhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.
Breaking news. After years of failed Republican efforts to uncover any proof of widespread voter fraud by Democrats, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida has found not one but 20 ineligible people casting ballots. Like Donald Trump and a gaggle of other GOP governors, DeSantis has used the phony bugaboo of an illegal voting epidemic as a political ploy to keep the true believers believing. They spend millions of taxpayer dollars on partisan wild goose chases, and DeSantis even created a new police bureaucracy, the Office of Election Crimes, to snoop on voters. It was all just silly political nastiness, but then, Ron's dragnet scooped up 20 of the diabolical culprits. Vindication. Who were they? All are former convicts who had previously been stripped of their right to vote, but each one unwittingly cast ballots in 2020, wrongly believing that their rights had been restored after serving their time. Who cares what they thought, bellowed the bullish governor. He trashed them as election criminals, ignoring their constitutional right to be presumed innocent unless convicted by a jury. Well, gosh, why did all 20 think they could vote? Because each one had properly submitted voter registration applications that went to DeSantis' state agency responsible for determining eligibility. But oops, Ron's own administration boo-booed, erroneously authorizing all 20 to get official voter ID cards. In short, the governor himself had effectively told them they could vote. Then he had them arrested and publicly condemned for doing so. This is Jim Hightower saying, now running for president, DeSantis says God has chosen him to rule because he's a fighter. But hello, he fights people rather than for them. He's a bully, and there's nothing godly about that. Nothing presidential either.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day the National Labor Relations Board began hearings on an unfair labor practice brought by the International Mine, Mill, and Smelters. Mine Mill had been fighting the union-busting tactics at Eagle Pitcher Lead Company. The union had been organizing lead and zinc miners in the tri-state area of Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. During the Great Depression, they built the union by emphasizing safer working conditions, stressing the hazards of silicosis and tuberculosis. In their book, Deadly Dust, Silicosis and the Politics of Occupational Disease, Gerald Markowitz and David Rosmer note that one of Mine Mill's demands included the elimination of the company clinic. They argued it was used to target and fire diseased workers rather than provide a safe work environment. Mine Mill also organized in other area industries to counteract the near total power of mine owners in the region. When the union called a strike at area mines in May 1935, the area's largest producer, Eagle Pitcher Lead, moved quickly to force a lockout and establish a company union. During the hearings, the union was limited in its ability to raise health and safety issues. They did win reinstatement and back pay for workers fired during the strike, but the case brought national attention to silicosis in the tri-state area. In a letter to Francis Perkins the following year, the head of the Cherokee County Central Labor Body hoped to secure legislation.
So is it right?
I watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Trump also facing backlash, as I said, though, from Republicans in the Senate, along with Mike Pence. Here's some of their responses when asked by reporters about the former president's dinner with the white supremacist and Holocaust denier.
The meeting was bad. He shouldn't have done it.
Oh.
But again, you know, there's a double standard about this kind of stuff, and I don't think it'll matter in terms of his political future. But I do believe we need to watch who we meet with.
I wouldn't want to have dinner with either one of those guys, or I wouldn't meet with either one of those guys. You make the most of that you want to.
He surely would disavow any of that stuff. Most would. How he took a meeting, I don't know.
There's no room in the Republican Party for white supremacists, anti-Semitism, so it's wrong.
I think it's ridiculous that he had that meeting. Just, it's ridiculous, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Just crazy.
I think it's disgusting to invite people like that to meet with a former president of the United States. I think it's been clear that there's no bottom to the degree to which President Trump will degrade himself and the nation.
Right. So the only person that actually went and named Donald Trump as being the perpetrator of a bad decision, the only people in all of that were Mitt Romney, who voted to remove Donald Trump both times after he was impeached for extorting Ukraine and for January 6th. Mitt Romney was, yes, get him out of here, vote 2 times. So Mitt Romney has absolutely no hold, there's no bar that, he has to lower himself to. He really thinks that Donald Trump is a joke. He really thinks that Donald Trump is a gargoyle. He really thinks Donald Trump is a danger to this country. He really thinks Donald Trump has no judgment. And it was like some crazy accident that Donald Trump ended up being president. So you expect Mitt Romney to say that Donald Trump is a lunatic and that, he pals around with white supremacists. But everybody else in that clip, including Lindsey Graham, I mean, they're not saying, oh, Donald Trump has no character. In fact, Mike Pence didn't say Donald Trump had no character either, or Donald Trump has no barrier to entry, or Donald Trump, no, they blame staff, or who in the world would think that was a good idea to allow for a meeting with the former president. It must be staff and a bad decision there. Lindsey Graham says, well, I thought the meeting was bad, but it really doesn't matter to his reelection. It really doesn't matter. So, it sounds like they're denouncing him. It sounds like they're running away from him, but they're really leaving a lot of room in there to maneuver. And that's exactly what they'll do when Donald Trump becomes the Republican nominee for the 2024 presidential. And he will. And he will. There is no doubt in my mind that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. And you know how he'll do it. He'll do it the same way he did it last time. There will be a crowded field of people. You're going to have your Mike Pompeos that'll wash out early, okay? You're going to have your Mike Pences that everybody's going to laugh at, point and laugh, right? You're going to have, some creatures, who think that possibly, Marco Rubio, I don't know, Lindsey Graham, I don't know. But you're going to have some swamp creatures, throw their hats into the ring. Ron DeSantis, yeah, he's going to become a darling for about 2 minutes. Donald Trump will destroy Ron DeSantis. He will destroy him the same exact way he destroyed Ted Cruz. The same, it'll all be about the wife. It'll all be about the family. It'll all be about how he kissed his ass and dressed his baby up in a Donald Trump Make America Great onesie, and what a joke he is, and how he's not a leader of his own damn family, and his wife is running his campaign. You watch Donald Trump. So with 35% of the vote, Donald Trump will become the Republican nominee. That's how he did it last time. Crowded field, 30% good enough to be the Republican nominee. That is going to happen. And that's why they won't, because it's primary territory. And I was telling that to somebody yesterday who was asking me, like, why do they do this? Why do they lower themselves to this level of disgusting behavior? Why are they so appalling? And I'm telling you, it's because 30% of this country is that disgusting. 30% of this country is that appalling. 30% of this country are men who can't get lucky, who are not attractive to the opposite sex or even to their own. Okay, there's no opportunity there for them to be appealing. There's no opportunity for them to have any experiences outside of mommy's bedroom or daddy's basement. It's just not happening for them. They're resentful, they are hateful, and they want to believe that America is a battlefield. And if they prevail, women will be sitting behind veils. This will be the American Taliban, and they will have complete and utter control over those people that rejected them. This is what they think, okay? And there's 30% of this country that believes that crap, that really thinks that there's a shot for them if only they could be the Taliban, if only they could control through violence and fear and subjugation, more than half of the population. And that's why he's appealing to them. And the only people that are left in that pool of, in that gene pool where you don't ever want to swim, the only people there, are people that either ate paint chips as babies, right? Or people that are white supremacists. And they want to make it okay to be that. They want to make it okay to be hateful. They want a country that is truly evil. They want a country that is truly bent toward the worst instincts in men. And they believe that. And that's why they listen to, guys that you can smell through the television. That's why they listen to Steve Bannon. That's why they listen to Fuentes. That's why they listen to Alex Jones, okay? That's why they're willing to trash their own country. That's why they're willing to say this is a bad place. It's an ugly place. It's a battlefield. We need to go to war. We need to tear it apart. We need to shred it. Because they really hate their lives. They really do. And they need to make their hateful ways acceptable and mainstream. And Trump is that guy. Trump is the guy that turns out the lights so the cockroaches can run all over the freaking place. And they are the cockroaches, and they always have been. Now, Hillary Clinton called them deplorable, and oh my God, you would think, she called them cockroaches. No, that would be me. That would be me. But they are. They're disgusting. They're disgusting.
I want to say a few things about the disgusting news that came out of Mar-a-Lago over the Thanksgiving break. Last week, it was reported that Donald Trump, the former president of the United States and Republican standard-bearer, had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with a notorious bigot who fancies himself a leading thinker on the extreme edges of the hard right.
He's 24.
Embracing everything from white nationalism to anti-Semitism to outright Holocaust denial. For a former president to sit down and have dinner with a high-profile anti-Semite is disgusting and dangerous.
Yes, it is disgusting and dangerous because it makes it okay. It gives a platform to people who hate. It gives a platform to incels. It gives a platform to, and tells people who can't figure it all out, can't find anything about themselves that is appealing or charming or worth knowing, and instead, want to destroy everyone that makes them feel hollow and empty. He's a 24-year-old snot-nosed kid.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed. I think you summed it up best. You said, let's face it, anyone who supports Donald Trump doing anything is just a human being. Thank you.
Yeah. That's in response to, weird Elon letting him back on Twitter. It's like, and if people are going, I support this. And no, don't support it for anything unless it's like for sitting in a prison cell and facing the walls for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
That I support.
Yeah. So far, that's a big bag of rats, right? So Elon did some fake poll. It's like, the people have spoken. He's back on. And Trump's like, I'm not going back on. I have my truth social.
You can't legally.
Big bag of rats.
Yeah.
So
this
for now,
this was after posting early on that before we let anybody on, we're gonna have to look at it. We're gonna have to they were gonna have a group get together and talk about it. No, he just let the bots decide.
Yeah, no, exactly. AOC said, I don't know, man. Last time he was here, this platform was used to incite an insurrection. Multiple people died. The vice president of the United States was nearly assassinated, and hundreds were injured. But I guess that's not enough for you to answer the question. Twitter poll it is. I mean,
Yeah.
And then Kanye's back on, and he just tweeted shalom with a smiley face. So that means
he did tweet
ignore
shalom.
The anti-Semitism.
Right. Yes, and apparently he's decorated his house for Hanukkah. So,
that's
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
That's nice.
So speaking for the Jews, I'd just like to say,
do you speak for the Jews?
You know what? Whenever I feel like it, I'm kind of Jewy. So my mom was Jewish. I was raised Jewish. Yeah, I officially count.
That should be your tagline, the rude pundit. Kind of Jewy. Yeah, you said funny.
Where's my Hollywood money? Exactly.
We asked George Soros directly for money when he came on this show, and he said no. Seems like you get credit for giving me a lot of money already. You might as well.
Right.
Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
Nobody has ever done what we've done in the last 4 years.
Their entire economic plan, tax cuts for the rich and corporations.
And record-breaking unemployment.
The worst jobs report on record.
Trump is the only modern president to leave office with fewer jobs than when he took office.
The Trump administration formally asking the Supreme Court to overturn the Affordable Care Act. This could leave up to 23 million Americans without coverage.
I hope that they end. It'll be so good if they end.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no? There has to be some form of punishment. For the woman? Yeah, there has to be some form.
And if I win, we will treat those people from January 6th fairly. And if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons.
Whether you're listening to Leslie Marshall each Tuesday through Friday or Brad Bannon each Monday, you can hear them from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern on the Progressive Voices Network. Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
Sean O'Brien. Mr. O'Brien is now General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. What do you, now that you're President, General President of the Teamsters, what do you hope to accomplish?
I hope to accomplish a bunch of different things. I mean, as you stated, we have goals and objectives that we are following. I mean, during the campaign, which Fred Zuckerman, my General Secretary Treasurer, and our entire executive board, we were campaigning for almost 3 years. And we were very successful because we were transparent and also inclusive, but very focused on what the platform of the union needs to be moving forward. Look, we're one of the biggest transportation unions in the world, and we can be one of the most influential. So, organizing is going to be a key priority to us in traditional industries, like freight, construction, industries, car haul.
Don't give up.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, it is the holiday season, and it is the season of giving. And today, I believe, is Giving Tuesday, and that's a good day to give. So if you are supportive of independent media, if you are supportive of people that don't take any corporate dollars, if you're supportive of people that don't take any political dollars, if you think that that's a good place for you to get media, if you think that being untouched and uninfluenced by political dollars or by corporate dollars makes somebody fairer or more willing to tell you the truth, then please do support independent media like Free Speech TV. We are only here because of you, but we've been here for 25 years because of you. So thank you for supporting independent media, for supporting Free Speech TV, your viewer-powered network. And because this is pledge drive time, and we've shortened the pledge drives, we've made them 2 weeks is what we've done instead of a whole month or, longer. All we need to do is find you today and get you to go to freespeech.org and give. And we will match it with our frontline funders who show up for us. I mean, it's unbelievable. They show up for us every single pledge drive. And they match whatever you do dollar for dollar. So $5 is $10, $10 is $20, on and on it goes. So give us a call at 877-378-8669 or visit us at freespeech.org or text FSTV, Free Speech TV, to 44321 and we'll send you a secure link. You could do a one-time, you can do a recurring and do $5 monthly, $10 monthly, whatever you feel comfortable with, or not, or just a one-time donation. But go ahead and call us at 877-378-8669 or visit us at freespeech.org. And thank you. Ernesto in California.
Yes. Hello?
Yes.
Is this Randi?
It is.
Hi.
Hi.
I like to say that, first of all, I'm an American and I'm also a proud Chicano. I grew up here knowing my identity. And even though I had a lot of racism aimed towards me, I still love my country. And I wonder sometimes how these guys like Nick Fuentes, who to me he seems like a 24-year-old punk.
He is
probably, a punk. He's probably an incel or something. But he claims that he has Mexican descent. So that means he has Aztec blood. So, he's a Chicano also. He's not all white. So to me it seems like he hates his race, as does that anti-Semitic Kanye West.
There's a lot of mental illness and self.
Yes, and how about that guy Stephen Miller, who's Jewish,
right?
And hates, and his parents, his ancestors, they immigrated over here, and now he's against immigration. I think they're hypocritical.
So
you know what I mean? My grandparents were born in Mexico, one in Baja California, and the other one in Nuevo León. But my parents were born here in the United States, and my mother, may she rest in peace, is blonde, green-eyed, and white as they come. My dad, he has a little bit more mestizo look. I have brothers that are very white, and I'm dark-skinned. But it doesn't make us any different because we are all American. And I don't know why these guys seem to hate their race. Doesn't that seem that way? They're racist. There's got to be a term for that. I don't know what it is, but I think that
The term is self-loathing. That is
Yeah, I think that they're self-loathing. And for the life of me, I don't know why we're paying so much attention to this 24-year-old punk who hasn't even experienced life yet. He's probably an incel. Kids don't really develop until they're late 20s.
Well, what's your excuse then for Steve Bannon or for Miller or for any of these dudes that are, Holocaust, deniers or anti-immigration or, self-loathing, hating Jews, being anti-Semitic, or Alex Jones? He's no child. This is just the next generation.
Well, my excuse for those guys is they latch on to where they can get the most money.
Right.
That's all it's about them. Making the dollar and spewing hate, because that's going to be a dollar, and a lot of people fall for it. But this guy Fuentes, I don't. He doesn't convince me. I think he's just a 24-year-old
convince you? I mean, he's running around with Kanye West, who is, as black as a black man can be, promoting, white supremacy. It's so.
Well, what I mean by convince me, he doesn't. I don't believe him. I don't believe what he does. I think he's just doing it for the dollar too.
Well, of course, that's all they're doing. Yeah. But, some of these people are mentally, strapped. There's something wrong. Their brains aren't functioning properly. Others of them are self-loathing, and others of them are looking for the almighty dollar, and they don't give a damn how much damage they do in service to themselves. So, there's all different reasons for all of these players who are playing Americans. And telling them that America is, in the end, just a battlefield. And they've had a lot of success with it. There's a lot of white supremacy out there with, guns behind them. There's a lot of people that are going into the Buffalo supermarket and targeting black people because that's what they think they're supposed to do on this battlefield.
Well, if they don't like them, just stay away from them,
Well... Yeah, I know, but that's not what's happening here. What's happening here are people are getting lathered up and being given permission to treat this country as if it was a battlefield. They use these military terms all the time. They talk about it as a great fight. They even characterize it as a fight between good and evil. Some of them actually go all, Jesus-y about it, as if Jesus wasn't a man... Jesus was the Prince of Peace. This is the reason for the season, okay? And they don't give a damn about the truth of any of it. If it serves their purpose, whether their purpose is shredding the United States, tearing us apart, whether their purpose is to be the ultimate incel and to own the women or own the libs or whatever their motive is, and they're all different. But they all have the same thing in common, and that is violence. They all are promoting and giving people permission to be violent towards people that they find, difficult, that they don't want to understand, or that that's what this whole, as all of a sudden it's like, oh, transgendered people just fell from the sky. We've never seen them before. We've never heard of them before. We've never had transgendered people in all of history. We've never shared a meal with a transgender. We've never come across it. It never existed until now. Do you know what heinous bullcrap that is? So why are they promoting this heinous bullcrap? Because it makes people violent. You know who's really suffering? Black transgendered women. I mean, it's undeniably. But the thing about anti-Semitism is this: it is always the precursor to tearing a society apart. Whenever you see real heinous stuff happening to a nation, it usually has to do with scapegoating other people, and usually the first people to be scapegoated are Jews. Now, America's a little different in that we scapegoat black people much more readily. You have to really give people permission to be anti-Semitic. But you don't have to give them permission to hate black people. I mean, that's just part of the American experience at this point. But remember when I told you we're all black now? This is what I meant.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
Vice President Mike Pence calls his wife Karen mother and sometimes mother. Mother does not allow father to attend events with alcohol without her being present. Mother does not allow father to have dinner with another woman. In fact, mother does not allow father to be alone in a room with another woman. Mother is an art teacher at Emmanuel Christian School, which requires employees to affirm in writing that they will not engage in homosexual sexual acts or have a transgender identity. Father's epic homophobia made him sign into law in Indiana the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which encouraged and condoned the aggressive discrimination of gays and lesbians. Around the White House, mother is known as the bulldog and father as the pleaser. Father was placed in charge of the coronavirus response on February 26th. The 5 months that followed, more than 170,000 Americans have died. Mother and father both oppose gay marriage. In interviews, father obsessively praises Trump's broad shoulders, and cameras have repeatedly caught him looking at Trump like Cinderella. Some senators call Pence Trump's fourth wife. An official from the Reagan administration said, "I'd like my wife to look at me just for one day the way Mike Pence looks at President Trump every day they're together." Father wrote about how disgusted he was with the Republican Party because they allowed HIV-positive people to speak at the 1996 convention. Father supported the use of federal funding to treat people, quote, seeking to change their sexual behavior, unquote, otherwise known as gay conversion therapy. Father praises himself as an uber Christian, but was caught stealing campaign donations for his first congressional race and used the money to pay his mortgage, credit card bills, and even fees for golf tournaments. Meet Mike and Karen, father and mother. They're just weird AF.
A boy's best friend is his mother.
It is midnight in Washington. The lights are finally going out in the Capitol after a long day in the impeachment trial of Donald J. Trump. You can't trust this president to do the right thing, not for 1 minute, not for one election, not for the sake of our country. You just can't.
Bing, bing, bong, bong.
He will not change, and you know it. History will not be kind to Donald Trump. I think we all know that. Not because it will be written by never-Trumpers, but because whenever we have departed from the values of our nation, we have come to regret it, and that regret is written all over the pages of our history. If you find that the House has proved its case and still vote to acquit, your name will be tied to his with a cord of steel and for all of history. He has betrayed our national security. He has compromised our elections, and he will do so again. You will not change him. You cannot constrain him. Truth matters little to him. What's right matters even less, and decency matters not at all. We have proven Donald Trump guilty. Now do impartial justice and convict him.
Excited to see members of Congress incite violence against law enforcement, enjoy armed insurrections, and the big lie? If so, thank a MAGA Republican. If you think election results should only count when Republicans win, thank a MAGA Republican today. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken, and people are dying.
Welcome to Code WACK, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code WACK, how do the results of the midterm elections affect the prospect for state-based single-payer healthcare systems? Will state governments continue to subsidize the private insurance system and defend the status quo as we lose money and lives? To find out, we recently spoke to Michael Leidy, president of Healthy California Now.
Well, the question is, I think, for elected officials at all levels, is are they going to continue to subsidize the private insurance system and not control costs in any meaningful way as people have less choices in healthcare and less ability?
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man. When I spoke to the coach and the players, I said, you can do this. They went, they did it. God love them. Anyway, just thought you might want to hear.
So the United States soccer team beat the Iranian soccer team today 1-0 in overtime, by the way, 1-0. And so we'll play the Netherlands now, which is great. I mean, it became a political thing because of the Iranian protests. It became a political thing. The people in Iran were rooting for us at this point. They are just done with the theocracy that people want here. Why in the world are people so blind and deaf and dumb to what theocracy actually does to a nation, what it does to the moral compass of the men who are imposing it on the other half of the population? I don't know. But the Iranians, they were, listen, they were finding it a little bit hard to root for their own country. I just found that just incredibly interesting. But we won, and so we will move on in the World Cup to play the Netherlands. Ryan in California. May I help you?
Hi, Randi.
Hello.
I'll follow the feet. I just have a question.
Yes.
Okay, I'm confused right now. Hang on one second. No, I'll just keep talking. I hear you on the radio. Okay. I have a question. Like, how can we? I googled to impeach like the Green Girl and Kevin, and it can actually happen. But I don't understand if we can do it by the state or is it by us? And I want to start a petition on
the state or by us. Is that for real? This is really how far you got in civics?
Yeah, that's where I got you.
Wow, jeez. No, so they're federal. They're federal Congress members. They would have to be impeached by the House of Representatives and removed by the Senate.
So it has to be them.
Yeah, and it won't happen because we just lost the majority in the House. Prepare yourself. It's about to be like a freaking circus over there. It's going to be like a dark, dark freaking comedy. The House of Representatives is about to be. All they're going to do is talk about Hunter Biden. That's it. That's going to be the full breadth and depth of what they do. They're not interested in solving any problems. For instance, today, okay, we got this rail strike that everybody's worried will happen on December 9th because they're in the cool down period now. They had a contract with the unions. There were 12 unions that were involved. 4 of the unions, it had to be unanimous, but 4 of the unions said no to the rail, to the industry's, offer. And so after they voted, there's a cool down period, and they're in the cool down period now. And 4 of the unions said no. Do you know why? It's not even about money. This is crazy. This is so fixable. This is something that has a solution. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's super simple. But okay, so you have on one side the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, okay, the rail industry, CSX, Union Pacific, really big, giant corporations who don't want to give any sick days with pay to these railroad workers, to these 12 union members who represent about 115,000 employees. They're not interested in providing sick days. Now, the cost of providing sick days to these workers would be about, I think it's $668 million a year. But their profits are somewhere around $6 billion a year, right? So when you consider the amount of money that they're making in profit, not revenue, profit, and what it would cost them to extend sick days to these workers, they're just like, no. Now, they take the profit that they make and they spend half of it buying back their own stock, which used to be illegal. Because when you buy back your own stock, you're limiting the amount of shares that are for sale, number one. And number two, you're juicing up the price. So they would rather take their money and enrich themselves and not give sick days with pay to their workers. Well, the real solution to this is something called the Healthy Families Act, which has already passed the House. But of course, when we change Congresses in January, we won't, none of the legislation that was passed previously exists. Do you know that? That's an interesting little thing. So there won't be any passed Healthy Families Act. There will be a Healthy Families Act, but it will not have passed the House. But it has passed the House. And it's sitting in the Senate where the senators who have suddenly found their spine and their backbone and their willingness to say Donald Trump should not be meeting with white supremacists, but they won't pass nor debate or take up the Healthy Families Act. Now, what does that do? It gives 7 paid sick days to Americans. That's why it's called the Healthy Families Act. You don't have to go to work when you're sick because you can't afford to not go to work. You can't afford to miss a day's pay. So the Healthy Families Act actually says working Americans get 7 paid sick days. And that solves the problem because that's all the union guys are asking for. They're asking for a handful of paid sick days. That's what they want. That's what they're holding up this agreement for. And they're right to do it. There's already a pay increase in there. It's a 24% pay increase over 5 years, but it's retroactive because it goes back to 2020. Okay, so there's some pay in there already, and everybody's fine with that kind of an increase. They're fine with a few little shekels here and there. They're not shaking down big business for cash. They're literally saying we need some paid sick days. This is ridiculous. We can't come to work sick, and you make us do that. Now, the President of the United States and the Democrats in the House and the Democrats in the Senate are sitting there saying, well, we're very pro-union, but we can't have a rail strike at Christmas. And some people are just saying, well, you see, Biden's full of crap and he isn't really a union guy, and that's why he's gone to the House and told the House, you've got to pass. See, because this is one thing that the labor laws in this country allow for. If you have a union and the industry doesn't exhibit a willingness to settle, Congress can step in, and Congress can do many things. Congress can modify the agreement so that it's acceptable to one side or the other that is, resisting accepting the agreement. Yes, they can. They can modify. Or they can actually agree on behalf of the workers or on behalf of industry to the agreement. And the President of the United States is so terrified that we will have a rail strike at Christmas time. And by the way, nearly every industry, agriculture, industrial, wholesale, retail, every resource-based sector of our economy spends some time on the railroad. I'm not talking about passengers. I'm talking about the railroads that bring stuff to rail yards, and then trucks go and pick up those containers and they take it the rest of the way. All right. But I need you to think a little deeper than just, he just doesn't want a rail strike at Christmas. He doesn't want a rail strike at Christmas because he doesn't want America turning against unions, turning against union workers. And that, he knows, will be the knee-jerk reaction in America if the rail unions go out on strike during Christmas time. And he's right. He's right. So he asked Congress to intervene, and Congress doesn't feel like they have the votes in the Senate to amend or modify this agreement to give 7 sick days to the rail workers. So they aren't going to modify the agreement. They're going to force agreement to the agreement as it is. As it is. And that is just such a sad state of affairs, okay?
President Biden is calling on Congress to avert a looming rail strike and impose a settlement that some union members rejected. The president is warning that a national rail shutdown would devastate the economy. Chief White House correspondent Cecilia Vega has the details. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hey, George, good morning to you. So the deadline for these unions and these rail workers to come to an agreement is now in less than 2 weeks. And if they don't, President Biden says we are looking at a potentially crippled economy and many industries shutting down. And this morning, he is not alone in this dire warning. Hundreds of business groups have come together to send a letter to Congress urging them to intervene, also saying that a rail service shutdown, listen to this, for any period of time could cost upwards of $2 billion, per day. And we are not just talking about passenger travel here. A strike could threaten everything from farming and food to crucial chemicals for clean water, causing major supply chain disruptions. But this is not expected, the good news here, to impact holiday gifts. Those were shipped to stores months ago. But the sticking point right now for many of these rail workers is over paid sick days. The president's involvement, this is a big one, calling on Congress to act, signals a major shift for him that could potentially pit him against his union allies. You know this, he is a big union backer, a staunch union backer. He has called himself the most pro-union president ever. He has been hesitant to get involved in congressional intervention in union issues in the past. But right now, George, he says that he was reluctant to get involved in this one, but the potential that this could cripple the economy was just too much. He had to get involved.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code Whack, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code Whack. What do the results of the midterm elections mean for healthcare reform at the national level? Could they have an effect on the increasing corporatization of healthcare? To find out, we asked Michael Leidy, president of Healthy California Now.
I think the federal level is tough to gauge. I think we can say that the really big threats to Medicare and Social Security are off the table because the Republicans don't have both houses. So their negotiating positions to leverage the Biden administration is weakened. They were definitely going to go after Medicare, maybe even raising the eligibility age. Can you imagine being subject to private insurance until you're age 70 instead of 65? That was being discussed by the Republicans. So I think there is going to be a need politically to address healthcare inflation. Now, what that usually means when you're not doing single payer is restricting access to the services, and so trying to make changes on the delivery side or schemes like ACO REACH or privatized things like Medicare Advantage. We know in California, Code Whack has covered it, that Medicare for All single payer can save people, individuals, working families, seniors even, $5,000 to $9,000 a year. We know that the state of California can save $158 billion a year by 2030.
A full Code Whack story on ProgressiveVoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code Whack wherever you find your podcast. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Today, we established the first ever dedicated fund for loss and damage.
While we were out, rich nations finally agreed to pay climate damages to poor nations. A quarter of Americans are at risk of winter power blackouts. Plus,
everybody that uses tap water in Houston is being told to boil your